We're going to open on the northern front. Airstrikes reported at the airports in Damascus and Aleppo. The second time during the war the airports have been struck. Syrian media indicates the runways have been destroyed and that the airport is out of commission. The IDF has begun evacuation plans for 14 more villages along the northern border after creating a 3-mile deep evacuation zone last week. This comes as Hezbollah increases the range and frequency of shelling in Israeli territory. The IDF did just hit a terror cell in Lebanon that was planning to carry a missile strike on a border town. This after 3 Israeli soldiers were injured by an earlier anti-tank missile launched at Kibbutz Bar-Am. The IDF hit Hezbollah targets in response to that as well. According to Hezbollah's numbers, the terror group has lost 18 operatives since the war began, though Israel has estimated considerably higher figures. There were rockets fired just about an hour ago from Gaza into central Israel as well. The West Bank is heating up as yet another possible front, with the IDF and Shin Bet saying a military aircraft struck an underground terror route at a mosque in the northern West Bank city of Jenin, where members of Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad were sheltering and planning a massive imminent attack the security forces say was modeled after the October 7th massacre. The Shin Bet and military say these operatives were using the mosque as a base to plan and carry out attacks, including the recent detonation of an explosive near Israeli troops along the West Bank security barrier. No soldiers were hurt in that blast. And the U.S. has activated more military assets in the Middle East as the war threatens to become a regional conflict. In addition to the 2 carrier strike groups, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has ordered the deployment of a terminal high-altitude area defense ballistic missile interception battery, as well as Patriot air defense systems in the area to protect U.S. forces. Austin also said additional forces have been set on standby if needed for rapid deployment. Now, we are going to open with the northern front. We have our Middle East correspondent, Ariel Oseran, standing by on the north border right now. Ariel, give us the latest updates in the war.
Right, Ariel. So the latest is that about an hour and a half ago to 2 hours, the IDF struck a terror cell in southern Lebanon that was planning to launch an anti-tank guided missile, at least one, at the border community of Avivim along the border. That's a little bit to the east where I'm standing now. According to the military statement, IDF forces managed to strike the cell before they launched the anti-tank missile, and this would be, I mean, in recent days we've seen multiple anti-tank missile strikes on border communities, on Israeli military outposts across the border with Lebanon, the vast majority of them carried out by Hezbollah. Obviously also Israeli forces responding to each attack and trying to thwart attacks like the one I just mentioned. Now, regarding the airports in Aleppo and Damascus, now Syrian opposition media saying that this is the 3rd time in 10 days that the Aleppo airport has been taken out of service due to Israeli strikes. The 2nd time in the same period of time that the Damascus airport was taken out of commission. Now, these strikes included bombing the runways. These are not believed to be strikes trying to target any arms shipments or weapons depots, as is usually the case. And now, in addition to that damage, according to Syrian state media, 1 civilian worker at the Damascus airport was killed. And so, given that the target was was the runway, it is believed that the target was trying to thwart any potential weapons shipments and to avert any potential shipment like that to other means, given that the Syrian airports in Aleppo and in Damascus are seen as key hubs aimed at sending weapons from Iran to its proxies in Syria and in Lebanon.
It's definitely a tense situation there. We'll be coming back to you over the course of the day with updates from that front. Ariel, thank you very much. We're going to break this down more in studio, though, with Colonel Jack Neriot, former Deputy Head of Assessment with Israeli Military Intelligence, as well as our senior correspondent, Owen Alterman. I want to open with you, Jack. We saw a report in Axios as of this morning that Hamas was developing crude improvised chemical weapons. We know that in Syria, Hezbollah has access to chemical weapons, and they have been willing to show very nasty surprises so far in this operation. What is the chances of this escalating along that sort of non-conventional axis?
Well, I cannot confirm that Hamas has access to the deadly gas and that he used that against targets, Israeli targets. But if this happens, this certainly is a dramatic change in the situation, and it will demand from Israel such a response that the Hamas would not even dare think about it. As long as Hezbollah is concerned, we know that the South Institute in northern Syria has been active in producing warheads, chemical warheads. And at the time of Barack Obama's administration, Obama had threatened Syria after the use of chemical weapons against the Syrian population that he would act against Syria, and the Syrian promised just to destroy the whole line of production. In fact, they did not, and the the South Institute was bombed twice and thrice by Israel, and still it is active. So we might have also a surprise coming from Hezbollah from deep inside the Syrian territory, that chemical weapons on chemical warheads on long-range missiles that could hit Israel. So this is the situation today. As far as the airports of Aleppo and Damascus are concerned, the quantity of bombs that was dropped on these two airports is equivalent to 100 targets in Gaza yesterday.
And I'm going to point out to our viewers, you're actually looking at some live visuals from the north, where there were just some strikes over the border right now, aiming at various Hezbollah or other terrorist positions who have been increasing their pace of fire towards Israeli territory. I want to return to you, Jack, as well, because again, you're from the intelligence background, and from what I'm understanding now, there was a report on Channel 12 here in Israel saying that the IDF, the Mossad, and other Shin Bet are working on creating a new force to hunt down the Hamas Nukba force commandos that carried out the massacres in Israel. Not just the leadership now actually going after their trigger pullers themselves. What goes into an operation of this magnitude?
Well, a lot of intelligence, a lot of technology, and I believe that, most of the terrorists that were captured by Israel will certainly give you information about their friends, about the families, and this promise of hitting or killing all those who participated in the massacre on the 7th of October was already said at the beginning of the war, and the very sentence was that every one of them will be killed and his house will be destroyed. And we've seen that during the campaign, and this is not the end of it. So, but basically the center, the focus of the organization is the Shabak, and not so much the intelligence. The intelligence just provides technical and technology, the intelligence, but the main job is the job of the Shabak.
But beyond that, obviously it reminds all of us of Munich, of both the movie and also the reality of what was done. Obviously, this is on a much huge, grander scale. In terms of the number of people who are killed.
I hope it won't take the time that it took to.
But that's where I'm about to go, and in terms of the number of people involved. But if that's the case, right? And if we take the authorities at their word on this, and we take it to its logical extension, this goes far beyond the war, both in time frame and in geography. So it's worth watching this space.